Labas rytas visiems, sveiki atvykę į konferenciją MURMURS, konferenciją, kuri pasitinka jūsų naujų vardų, su atsinaujinusią koncepciją, su dviem puikiais muzikos vakarais Vilniuje, klube Kablys, kur bus net 2 scenos. Ir žinoma, be jokios abejonės, su 2 dienom pokalbių čia, Litexpo parodų centre, tarptautinėje Vilniaus knygų mugėje, muzikos salėje. Labai malonu jūs visus matyti, turbūt nepasakosiu visos istorijos apie tai, kaip pasikeitė šio festivalio pavadinimas, kokios yra naujovės, kodėl tas pavadinimas yra toks gražus ir dvigubai ištariamas. Lietuvoje mes jį dažniausiai tariam MURMURS, užsieniečiai jį taria MURMURS, bet kaip pavadinsi, taip nepagadinsi. Ir pirmas dalykas, kurio aš privalau paklausti, nes turiu garbę pradėti pirmąją diskusiją šios konferencijos programoje, ar yra nors vienas žmogus, kuris nė velnio kol kas nesupranta, ką aš kalbu, nes nesupranta lietuvių kalbos ir kalba tik angliškai. Anyone who only speaks English or other language and doesn't understand the thing that I have just said now? No. Tada mes galime visą šitą daryti lietuviškai, kadangi mes apsitarėme šiek tiek su šitos puikios diskusijos dalyviais. Tikrai, nors visi mes kalbam angliškai, bet lietuviškai mes galėsim pasakyti dar daugiau žodžių ir dar išsamiau aptarti šitą temą. Aš pristatysiu netrukus visus mūsų šios tikrai labai įdomios diskusijos dalyvius. Mes kalbėsime apie Vilnių, apie muziką, apie Vilniaus muzikos ekosistemą, apie jos viziją, apie tai, kas vyksta, apie tai, ką dar reikėtų padaryti. Ir neabejoju, kad išgirsim nemažai įdomių ir įkvepiančių minčių. Bet pirmiausia, mes turėsime prezentaciją ir ją mums pristatys vienas iš mūsų diskusijos dalyvių. Aš išsiaiškinau visus titulus. Tai yra pirmiausia, kompozitorius, muzikos kūrėjas, Lietuvos muzikos ir teatro akademijos kompozicijos katedros docentas, Lietuvos kompozitorių sąjungos pirmininkas. Man atrodo, viską paminėjau. Mantautas Krukauskas. Paplokim Mantautui ir jis pradeda ir atidaro šiandieną mūsų MURMURS konferenciją. Mantautai, scena jūsų.
Ačiū labai. Kadangi visada įdomiau diskutuoti ir kalbėtis, aš pabandysiu labai ilgai prie skaidrių neužtrukti, bet galbūt pateikti keletą pirminių idėjų šiai diskusijai, kurios remiasi tyrimų, kurį neseniai atlikome vieno europinio projekto, kuris vadinasi MI-RAP, tai yra Interreg programos, regioninio bendradarbiavimo programos projektas Baltijos jūros regiono, kuriame dalyvauja valstybės ES, kurios gyvena aplink Baltijos jūrą. Ir projektas vadinasi Music Industry Resilience Acceleration Program, tai reiškia, kad iš esmės yra susijęs su tvarumu ir su tuo, kaip mes galime užtikrinti, kad muzikos industrija bus tvari, vystysis, augs, plėsis. Ir viena iš veiklų, kuri buvo tame projekte, kuris dar tęsiasi, tai yra tam tikros pilotinės programos, kur visi partneriai savo miestuose darė kažką tais jiems bent jau įdomaus, reikia tikėtis ir kitiems įdomaus. Ir mūsų užduotis šiame projekte buvo atlikti Vilniaus muzikos ekosistemos analizę, mappingą, kaip taip nelietuviškai pasakysiu. Tai reiškia ištirti situaciją, kokia jinai yra ir galbūt paieškoti, ką mes galime padaryti ir nuveikti, kokios yra problemos, kurias reikėtų išspręsti tam, kad ta ekosistema klestėtų. Žodis ekosistema man beje asmeniškai labai patinka, dėl to, kad yra vieni, kurie yra labiau menininkai ir sako, kad menas čia ne jokia industrija, ne verslas, menas menui ten panašiai. Ne? Yra kolegų, kurie sako, kad ne, menas yra verslas, entrepreneurystė ir reikia visų pirma žiūrėti į tai, nes mums ekonominė vertė irgi yra labai svarbi, kol mes nepradėsime dalykų pardavinėti, to nieko gero nebus. Aš manau, kad ir vieni, ir kiti kažkiek teisūs, už tą žodis ekosistema lyg tai apjungia tos du polius, mano supratimu irgi. Prezentacija yra angliškai, bet iš esmės, koks pagrindinis šio tyrimo tikslas ir principas, aš kaip ir paminėjau, kad tyrėme, kokia situacija yra dabar ir ką mes galime padaryti, kad ją išspręstumėm. Mes šiame tyrime bendradarbiavome su tarptautiniu inovacijų ir kūrybiškumo tyrimų tinklu Mozaik. Jie turi keletą metodikų. Viena iš tų metodikų yra analizuoti ekosistemas, bandant jas grupuoti į 3 lygmenis pagrindinius. Vienas lygmuo tai yra, kaip jie vadina, upper ground, arba tai, kas yra institucionalizuota, arba tai gali būti didelės korporacijos privačios, arba tai gali būti valstybinės kažkokios įstaigos. Tada yra undergroundas, pavyzdžiui, jeigu mes kalbėtume apie startupų ekosistemą, tai būtų tie pirmo lygmens startupai arba iš viso žmonės su idėjomis, kurie sėdi Rusijai ir kažką programuoja, ar ne, lygiai taip pat kaip yra ir muzikantų, kurie tiesiog turi savo studijas ir ten kažką tai kuria, ar ne. Ir tada yra jungtis, tai yra būtent kas leidžia tekėti kraujui iš viršaus į apačią ir atvirkščiai, tai yra resursams ir idėjams. Ir aišku, tai visa yra susijęs su ekosistemos veikėjais, asmenimis, institucijomis, žmonių grupėmis, formaliomis, neformaliomis ir panašiai. Ir čia yra tiesiog pavyzdys, kas jie galėtų būti. Aš kadangi labai greitai prašokinėsiu šitą prezentaciją, jeigu kas nors jos norės, tai parašykit man vienokį ar kitokį būdu, gale bus mano kontaktai, aš jums ją atsiųsiu. Jinai taip pat, informaciją apie šį projektą taip pat galima susirasti MI-RAP projekto puslapyje tiesiog per Google. Ten visa mūsų medžiaga dedama, arba jau dalis sudėta, arba dar bus sudėta daugiau. Tai galimi tipai, aiškinant tai, apie ką aš kalbu. Ir mes juos galime tiesiog imti ir sudėlioti kažkaip tais tokiu būdu. Ir tokiu būdu galima turbūt tyrinėti bet kurią ekosistemą. Tai yra lyg tai pirmas žingsnis. Kitas labai svarbus žingsnis tai yra empatija. Aš sakyčiau, čia netgi tokia metodika, kuri iš dalies ateina iš taip vadinamo design thinking principo. Mums yra labai svarbu suprasti, apie ką mes kalbame, o tai visų pirma yra žmonės, ar ne? Mes galime žiūrėti iš tos institucinės, statistinės pusės, tačiau yra labai svarbu žiūrėti ir iš tos pusės, jeigu mes turime, sakykime, konkrečiai kokį nors žmogų, kūrėją, pavyzdžiui, ar ne, arba kokios nors institucijos atstovą, kaip mes šiandien diskusijoje turim Vilniaus miesto tarybos atstovą, ar ne, turim naktinio Vilniaus biuro atstovę, turim Lietuvos kultūros ministerijos atstovą, kurie atlieka tam tikrą funkciją ir yra liktai atstovai institucijos, bet jie tuo pačiu yra ir žmonės, ne, su savo vertybėmis, požiūriais, problemomis, norais ir panašiai. Tai mes taip pat analizuodami sukūrėm tam tikrus mūsų pratimų tipinius profilius, kažkokiu tais įsivaizduojamų Lietuvos ir Vilniaus kultūrinės, muzikinės ekosistemos veikėjų, tam, kad geriau galėtumėm suprasti, kas jiems yra svarbu, remdamimėsi keliais, sakykime, mums žinomais pavyzdžiais, bet tuo pačiu išlaikant anonimiškumą, lyg tai sudedant kažkokius tipinius bruožus į vieną asmenybę iš kelių, sakykime, ar ne. Kai žiūri iš tokio kampo, tas irgi yra gana įdomu, nes tada bandai įsikūnyti lyg tai tą žmogų ir galvoti, bet kas jam yra svarbu, kas jam galėtų būti įdomu. Dirbtinis intelektas beje padeda sugeneruoti ir fotografijas žmogaus, numanomus bruožus, kaip jis galėtų atrodyti. Ir paskui galima pabandyti padėlioti žmonės ant kažkokiu tais tokiu vienokiu ar kitokiu žemėlapiu. Čia yra tokia matrica, kurioje yra tas uppergroundas, middlegroundas ir undergroundas išskleisti į dvi ašis. Viena ašis yra labiau susijusi su to, ar žmonės labiau kūrė, ar žmonės labiau vartoja. Lyg tai klausytojai, jeigu vienam ašies gale, o kitam ašies gale ten koks nors eksperimentatorius kūrėjas, ar ne, kuriam gal klausytojai net nelabai rūpi. Ir tada yra institucinė pusė, tai lyg tai yra kažkokios tai formalios, neformalios žmonių grupės, ten studijos, įmonės ir taip pat yra tai, kas jau yra matoma, tai yra institucijos, didesnės leidybinės kompanijos ir panašiai. Tai mums taip pat bežiūrint ir bedėliojant viską, pasimatė, kad taip daugiau mažiau vidury tokių organizacijų žmonių, kalbant apie bendrą ekosistemos balansą, yra tam tikra skylė arba trūkumas. Yra ten tų organizacijų žmonių, bet galbūt nepakankamai. Ir galbūt yra šiuo momentu ta vieta, erdvėlaikyje, kad mums reikia galvoti, kaip mums visiems kartu, žiūrint pagal vienokias ar kitokias vertybinės pozicijas, ieškoti, kaip mes tas jungtis galime kurti, kaip gali atsirasti procesai, arba tiksliau, kaip sukurti tam tikras sąlygas, kad atsirastų procesai, žmonės, organizacijos, kurios padeda apjungti, kaip sakant, vieną ir kitą pusę. Taip pat čia yra pavyzdys to, ko galbūt galėtų trūkti. Jeigu taip jau konkrečiai dėliojant. Čia galbūt taip abstrakčiai apibrėžtos pagrindinės problemos anot šito tyrimo, tai yra suvokimo apie situaciją asimetriškumas, susikalbėjimo trūkumas, kažkokį tai bendro supratimo. Kartais būna, turbūt tiem žmonėms, kurie dažnai atlieka tą vertėjo funkciją, būna tokių momentų, kai tu supranti, žmonės kalba apie tą patį, bet nesusišneka, nes tiesiog naudoja kitus žodžius arba turi kitą vertybinį supratimą, nors iš tikrųjų jų interesai ir supratimas sutampa, jie tiesiog nesusišneka. Tada trūksta tos infrastruktūros, middle groundo, trūksta galbūt matomumo, bendros tapatybės tam, kad galima būtų užsiimti didesnę sklaidą ir eksportų ir taip pat pritraukiant dalykus kažkur iš kitur čia. Na ir yra įvairių sprendimo būdų, taip pat, kurie irgi siūlomi tame tyrime. Aš juos, sakykime, dabar neišsiplėsiu, nes mums kur kas įdomiau galbūt pakalbėti su kolegomis, bet iš esmės pagal tą metodiką middle groundas kuriasi 3 pagrindiniais būdais ir principais, tai space, place, events. Kitaip tariant, tai yra vieta, erdvė, labiau konceptuali erdvė veiklai, pavyzdžiui, ar saviraiškai panašiai, ir taip pat renginiai, tiesiog kažkokie tais renginiai. Vat kaip ir šitas renginys galėtų būti visai puikus middle groundo pavyzdys, ar ne, kur susitinka žmonės iš skirtingų ekosistemos vietų ir bando kartu diskutuoti ir kažką kalbėtis. Na ir turbūt yra sudėtinga, aišku, organiškus dalykus inžinerinti, bet visgi tai turėtų privesti prie to, ko mums turbūt trūksta ir norisi, ar ne, kad būtų stipresnis identitetas, stipresnė tapatybė Vilniaus muzikos scenos, įvairiausių scenų, eksperimentinių, akademinių iki komercinių ir panašiai, kad atsirastų tie nauji tiltai ir taip pat, kad atsirastų įtrauktis, supratimas ir kad žiūrovai irgi, pavyzdžiui, suprastų, kas vyksta ir panašiai. Tai va, čia jeigu ką, mano kontaktai, jeigu norėtumėte daugiau informacijos, detalių ar šios prezentacijos, galite kreiptis. O dabar pakviečiau kolegas ir pasikalbėtumėm tiesiog.
Ačiū Mantautai, ačiū šitą prezentaciją, aš tai tikrai norėsiu jos visų skaidrių, kadangi ten tikrai buvo labai įdomių palyginimų ir analizių. Aš pasakysiu atvirai, aš vakar gavau šitas skaidres, neturėjau daug laiko taip prasibėgti per jas labai nuosekliai, nes įtempta savaitė, bet aš 2 žmonės, kurie ten sugeneruoti AI-us googlinau, nes aš literaliai galvoju, kad čia yra tikrai ir galvoju, kas yra Šiaurės balso festivalis, kodėl aš apie jį nežinau. Atsirado tas toksai fear of missing out momentas, tu prasme, kad galvoju, blemba, viskas, aš jau prarandu kvalifikaciją, aš jau nebepagaunu. Yra festivalis kažkoks geras, yra kažkoks organizatorius ir aš nesu niekad jo matęs. Ir vieną iš tų žmonių aš net buvau garantuotas, viskas gerai, aš jį 2 kartus mačiau estradoje Vilniuje, bet mums reikėtų susipažinti. Tai labai įtikinamai viskas atrodo, puikiai prezentacija. Ir aš noriu pasakyti, kad pas mus jau pradėjo prisijungti mūsų svečiai iš užsienio, kurie yra delegatai šitos konferencijos ir jie buvo įstrigę transporto spūstyje, dėl to mes dabar persijungsim į anglų kalbą. We are going to switch to English now, as advertised. What it says on the tin, this is going to be in English. Ir aš noriu pakviesti, I would like to invite our other panelists on this stage, so please, ladies and gentlemen, join us here. I'll take my seat here, and since you sit wherever you want. We have several amazing speakers with us today, and we are going to be discussing things that, actually it was a very good intro, Vilnius Music Ecosystem from mapping to vision. So we have Gabija, Liaugminaitė from Vilnius Night Office. We have Vygintas Gasparavičius, who is a member of Vilnius City Council and head of finance and economics committee basically there. So we are going to mostly be talking about money, of course, and how can we get more of money for our Vilnius music scene, and you are going to be responsible for all those convenient or inconvenient answers. And we have Mantautas Drukteinis, who is a Vice Minister of Culture of Lithuania. And last but not least, of course, he's a music guy himself. So he's a composer, so he feels at home here, I'm sure. So welcome. And let's start our little cozy panel discussion about what we have just heard, and not only about that, because Vilnius is in the topic of this conversation. So I would like to start with Gabija. There were some very interesting things mentioned in this presentation as well, and I found it intriguing that Mantautas actually basically divided the scene into underground, middle ground, and let's just call it overground, institutional, popular, whatever. Is there a lot of conflict between those three categories, in your opinion? Because I know what my opinion is, and I see that, between underground and between overground, artists and musicians and managers supported by public money. There is a bit of a schism here. But what is your opinion?
Well, there's definitely a gap there. Although I wouldn't say personally that the people in the scene feel bad towards each other. I think everybody's pretty much friendly towards the other groups of people. Just that the structures there to help them are not the same, and that might feel a little unjust sometimes, because the art, or in this case music, it's a hard thing to value, and it's kind of complicated to see, okay, this one is worth more than the other one, even though the experimental stuff might lead to the big achievements in the end. So and we also have great examples of artists who started as experimental nobodies and then ended up being world stars. So perhaps there's just this, just a bit of wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. I think that's very, very important for starting artists, for experimental, for the underground scene. But I wouldn't say they're not happy or they're in competition with the upper ground or overground, as we said.
What is the key role of Vilnius Night Office in this context? Because I just figure out we have guests from abroad and everything, and quite a few Lithuanian people know what Vilnius Night Office does, but it makes sense to spend several minutes talking about, the role of Vilnius Night Office.
Yeah, so we are part of the Vilnius Municipality, and we were established to help support Vilnius nightlife. As we know, we have it quite actively and vividly that Vilnius nightlife is happening. So we are working in the middle row, actually, pretty much exactly what the presentation was saying. It's lacking in Vilnius. We are combining the vision from the municipality and the political level, and kind of going into the crowds, into the communities, and then trying to support them in that way. Besides that, we are working with 3 different topics, mainly, or 4, I would even say. One is cultural support, in the sense music mostly. Maybe I will have a chance to talk about it a little bit more, about the grassroots music venues project that we're doing. But that's one part. Another part is safety and health. So that's psychoactive substance prevention and harm reduction, as well as trainings for staffs, all kinds of health initiatives. And the third one is noise mitigation. So as nightlife is so active in Vilnius, so are the neighbors who want to sleep. So we are also in the middle there, between the municipality and the businesses and the people actually living in Vilnius. And the fourth, I would say, is data collection, because that's very, very important. And we have been barely doing that for years, unfortunately. So we are collecting all kinds of interesting points to have a clearer vision of what the night is, what the music part in it is. And so, yeah, that's basically what we're doing.
So basically, in a nutshell, very exciting musical stuff and very boring bureaucratical stuff,
Exactly.
which is very much needed, of course.
Exactly.
Okay, Vygintas, I want to ask you, not only as a member of Vilnius Council and also a former Vice Minister of Culture, but also as someone who really loves music, because I see you at some really great gigs from time to time. In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges that Vilnius music life is facing at the moment, and what could be better?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Mantautas for such attention and then the study devoted to my native city, Vilnius, and the city in which I represent now at the council. And I would like to continue from the last slide. It was places, spaces, and events. So it is quite obvious that there is a huge lack and the gap in music spaces when it comes to rehearsals, when it comes to co-creation spaces, when it comes to incubators, accelerators, and so on. We can observe quite a good example, Sawdust 2123. It is quite interesting space dedicated to visual arts mostly. It was abandoned building, and right now it's a very strong community and the hub of visual arts and in disciplinary arts. Vilnius City Municipality took over the old concert hall of interior affairs in Žirmūnai district. It's a huge brutalist building and the concert hall. So we clearly see that it will become a hub of creative industries. And of course, it is time it is needed for that transformation, but taking examples from Amsterdam, Rotterdam, or other European cities, we can see that still, without new refurbishment, we can make a very livable and important hubs in transition pirate. Of course, there is a needed money and the funds and resource to that in transition pirate, but nevertheless, it's not abandoned and it serves for the community. As well, we see, and we did quite a big reform in the funding of the culture in the city of Vilnius. In 2023, it was the budget of the culture 20 million. Now it's 35 in 2 years. And money, it's important, but it's not the only thing. The most important thing, how you spend it. And the reform of the funding of a festival, implementation of a strategic funding for the 3 years programs, dedication to the cultural industries, new Vilnius Film Foundation, and so on, again, name it. But actually, it makes a difference in Vilnius, in the city, in the musical life, and beside the hard stuff, beside the infrastructure as well, we are very keen to help the musicians and very open for the discussions. What would be the best way to make a breakthrough and our common efforts successful?
Well, just shortly, it might be interesting for our foreign delegates and guests. So you mentioned, a festival funding program, like a 3-year program, just shortly in a nutshell. So there's a competition and you can apply for funding. And then you basically, if you get that funding, you can kind of plan for 3 years.
Yeah, that's we took example from the Lithuanian Culture Council. It's quite the same situation with different for the organizations and for the festivals. And the new thing we implemented, and it's as well very important, it's tax relief for the businesses who are supporting Vilnius City cultural organizations. Basically, the system is very simple. You have to be on a list that you are representing Vilnius City, And if you are receiving money from as a donation from the businesses, 70% of the amount is covered by the tax relief. So it's quite attractive program. Last year it's dedicated for the sports and the culture. Last year sport and cultural organizations received 2.5 million. I have to admit that the culture part is smaller, it's 700,000, but nevertheless we expanding this year the applicant list and 13, I believe 13 cultural organizations will be eligible to get that. And actually it serves for the inclusion. And we are trying to switch the queues from the offices of the politicians to queues to the business. Just prove that what you are doing, it's important, not just for you, not just for the city, but for the business as well. And we will share that funds and we'll do the relief for the taxes.
Okay, Matas. You know, it's quite interesting because whenever we have this kind of discussion, we are always, of course, aiming for things to be better, and we are saying that not enough spaces to play. Should be more infrastructure, more funding possibilities, etc. Now you go to the third or fourth city in Lithuania, and we're very envious of how great everything is in Vilnius and how many spaces we actually have to play. As Vice Minister of Culture, you have to see the full picture and to take care of the regions, the whole thing. So how does Vilnius compare? And same question as for Vygintas, what, in your opinion, could be done better, and what should Vilnius aim for in terms of making music life more lively and creating more buzz and more things happening?
Thank you, and hello everybody. Of course, Vilnius has very good positions in Lithuania. Here in Vilnius, we have the biggest and main institutions, music and cultural institutions. NGO, strongest NGO. The culture is very vibrant here in Vilnius. And in other cities in Lithuania, it's not so good yet. And except we have local cultural centers with quite good spaces, halls, and maybe local, some communities quite strong, getting stronger, but still it's quite, let's say, flat. So, but the problem is bigger. It's connected with the whole regional policy in Lithuania. So cultural policy goes together with economical issues, with jobs, with social all things, and that goes all together. But despite that, we have some regions or some cities that works quite well in this all circumstances, like, I don't know, Plungė, very cultural strong city, of course Klaipėda, but also Panevėžys is one of that. So we have cities, and the problem is very complex because so that it's very hard to say one answer where is the problem and what to do. But mainly, in my opinion, when we will do good and we will make good circumstances for artists to go there to create and create maybe organizations, events, festivals, art. Then we can make regions and different more points in Lithuania stronger and great places, as you said.
Okay, the big elephant in the room, and whoever wants to answer this can answer this. But like, just for example, if a big topic at the moment is like the new concert hall on the hill, our foreign guests probably don't know the context, but which is something that the Lithuanian music scene is waiting for. There will be a great, amazing concert hall. However, people who play popular and alternative music are already very angry about that because they're saying this is not going to be good for any kind of music apart from classical. And maybe that's a very harsh and very kind of, maybe not correct way to say this. But if we are talking about the Vilnius music future ecosystem, etc., maybe it makes sense to address this just as a question. So what's happening, and is this criticism in any way valid, or is this just some angry indie rock bands, just running around and being indie rock bands being angry?
Okay. I was at the roots of the planning of that infrastructure, so I will start and then Mantautas will continue. Actually, on the hill, we are building not just a concert hall. It is a performing arts center. There are 4 halls and exhibition hall and so on. The first hall is 1,700 natural acoustic designed by Nagata Acoustic, Japanese high-end engineers of the sound. But it's not limited to the jazz, to the popular music. There were calculations how to make it as multifunctional as possible to make hangs from the roof and so on and so on. The second hall, it's a most modern black box in the Baltic states with a capacity of 700 at most. Actually dedicated to the performing arts as well. There is a rehearsal hall and so on and so on. But National Concert Hall and that performing center, it's not the only infrastructure Vilnius is building. Actually, we are building the stadium and the new arena near the stadium. And stadium, of course, when we are talking about stadium, we have in mind the sport events, football and so on, but it is as well dedicated to entertainment industry and new arena, multifunctional on a Šeškinė hill as well, dedicated not just to the sport but to culture. So a lot of going on in Vilnius in terms of infrastructure, and I strongly believe that we will find the common roots to all the industries: classical music, jazz, performing arts, rock, pop, and so on.
Yeah, and actually, I can understand the questioning and discussions about that, but in one point of view, we have, as a country, we have to have best quality acoustics hall. So it's very needed to be in the list of classical and modern music scene in Europe. So that's first, let's say, thing. Another thing, of course, let's say more popular music scene and concerts can be done, can take place in different interesting places, because we have amplifiers. We can make interesting event in factories, in I don't know, depths, train depths, and of course we have arenas and so on and so on. So the question is this problem is really very actual and or just just telling that you have a bit jealousing, you have a new concert hall, but of course as a country, as a state and a local government, we want to see and take care of all sectors and help to all sectors, all kind of music in this case, creators and organizations to find the best ways to do what they want to do. So if there is any problem, we can help to solve it together.
I just want to add a little bit that it's a very good example, actually, how we could turn the question, for example, to something else. It's about nurturing, really, and about understanding. It's a very good example, like creating conditions rather than supporting particular bands or institutions or ensembles or something. Like, yes, halls are very important, and venues where to perform are very important. At the same time, it's very important to have mechanisms, of course, support mechanisms for different parts of the ecosystem. It's all relational, to my understanding. It's, first of all, there are people who really like to experiment and they don't even want to go somewhere else. It might change in their life. So there should be paths for people to move from one part of the ecosystem into another. However, it's even more important that people, let's say from classical sphere and rock sphere, they have possibilities, spaces, to meet and actually understand each other, understand that maybe, okay, like we need both this and this because it's all interconnected. It's all the same ecosystem and we all are related, that sometimes the same people are doing something there and something there. And like jointly it can create, it's not about just competition. Of course, competition is also very good. However, sometimes we have to understand that some things are not even like competing with each other, could actually supplement or support each other, but we have to talk. We have to understand what is it, about. And for example, ecosystem is also about something that if some things die, for example, I really believe that we don't have enough mechanisms to sustain it. Also, just because people maybe do not meet and talk enough, like, for example, in Silicon Valley, if some startup dies, right away there are 10 more startups growing out of this dead startup, next day, because there are some mechanisms, places where people just meet and drink beer or wine or have a joint breakfast, and then they have also possibilities to go to certain accelerators or incubators or things like that to develop the ideas further and to learn from the mistakes. We shouldn't also think that just success stories are important. So to my understanding, also the failures are important, and ecosystem is also about death and failure, but also how to make it that it helps other things grow, that it works like trashos, how it's in English, I forgot. Thing which you put in fertilizers, exactly, which you put in the ground, that something else grows out of it, that all the information stories which come from the ecosystem, that they build up into some kind of joint story, and we keep on working and developing things further in the part of ecosystem where we feel the most energized, because anyway, when you are in music and the arts, you just do what you love mostly, right?
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger. I only raised this question because there's quite a lot of heated discussions on Facebook, and usually those questions come from pop music community and promoters who want to put up big shows. So I can understand their interest as well. So the more venues, the merrier, and they really need those. This is way too short for this kind of discussion. We only have several minutes left, but I want to touch upon the Grassroots Venues project because I think it's very interesting also for our foreign guests. In a nutshell, it's a project where there's some funding, and actually in some cases quite substantial funding for live music venues where up and coming artists can perform, and there are certain rules that the venue has to host some events each year. There's a certain number of events. So please, Gabija, just for those people who do not know how it works, and maybe already we can think of some, and we can already say some results, because this has been going on for a while. Just looking at it with a naked eye, I see that this is a very great thing for Vilnius, music venues ecosystem and everything that's happening. But of course, the numbers and what's happening.
Yeah, so the project is called the Niklas. It's a support project by the municipality and Vilnius Night Office, dedicated exclusively for grassroots music venues. And when we say that, we don't only mean live music, I must say that. because we mean performances in general. So it could be theater, it could be poetry, it could be music, it could be DJs. The point is that people are going there to watch the performance. It's not just a bar with some phonogram music on the side. So last year, this project has been going on for 1 year only, actually. And we supported 17 venues who applied. They had some criteria they had to adhere to. So they had to make 50 events per year. They had to serve free water and snacks that's connected to health. They also had to have video cameras, surveillance cameras, in case the police would need it. That's also based on health. And we didn't look at the content that they are putting out. We only looked at their concept, whether that's a good concept to support. So, for example, a jazz bar, or I don't know, a live music bar, or I don't know, a gay community place. Just some kind of community involvement must be there. And we had 21, I think, applicants. 17 of them got the funding for 1 year, which created, actually, we were expecting, based on that number, 950 events, which ended up being 1,330 events. And that's not all events. We only counted the ones that they uploaded to our website. So that means that there's more than 1,300 events happening every year in Vilnius, which is almost 4 events per day that you can go to every day. I think in that sense, Vilnius is incredible, and this funding really helped those places. For some of them, of course, the funding of 10,000 euros was a drop in the water, in the ocean. But for some, they really impacted their infrastructure, the way that they can support the musicians that are going to perform. I mean, the goal is to support the artists who are there on the lower level of their careers. So they're just starting, or maybe they've been doing it, but they need the opportunity to perform. So I think almost 400 events says a lot. We are going to continue this project, hopefully. And we also had some improvements on the previous year. So we saw what was working, what was not working, what was a bit complicated for the businesses, because they are businesses, they are not public institutions, they are not really used to filling in all these documents and following the rules. So we had to do a lot of education to them and kind of build this partnership from zero. The venues were really grateful that somebody actually noticed them. Some of these venues have been open for 20 years. Tamsta, for example, is one. It's legendary, and they said nobody has ever looked at us as important. We had to do everything on our own. So I think that's the most important thing. We have a partnership, a strong allyship with 17 venues, maybe more this year, maybe less, around that time, which helps us to support the artists, support the businesses, create the face of Vilnius for ourselves, for tourists. It puts us on the map, literally. People are coming here to experience how we live, and we live really well based on this culture. So I think, I just hope that we are an example to the rest of Lithuania, and everybody can just take this practice and apply to them, to their own cities, because it seems to be working. And I'm happy that Vilnius is so open and keen to help this community and these communities, and there are plenty of them, and they're mixing. These venues is just the ground for them to show themselves, but one venue can host hundreds of communities per year. So it's great, I think.
May I just add, indeed, just last week I just thought that, I just went through the programming of several of those grassroots venues supported by this program. And some of those bands who are really great up-and-coming bands probably would not get a chance to play anywhere, because they can, provide the stage, small venues with like, where 60 people can gather, and that's a, just optimum, just place and capacity for those kinds of acts. And there's a PA and there's a small stage and everything. And I think what you're doing is great. And I think it kind of in a way, because there was lots of talk about this, about the project, about the program, in a way it also added to the visibility of the whole, small venues, grassroots venues scene, where people started thinking, okay, yeah, what is this Dainykla thing? Well, maybe I should check out this place or that place. So I think this is great, and and amen to that, and let's continue. Sorry, I've been told we have to finish this at 10 to 12. I mean, I feel like we only have just started, but I guess, we can continue this like next year or on the fringe. You see those people, just come up to them, talk to them. Maybe they'll stick around for a while here at the conference. And in 10 minutes, we are going to have an amazing panel about AI. And AI is a big subject, so stick around to that. For that, and a round of applause to all of our speakers. Yeah, thank you so much. This was the first panel of MURMURS. MURMURS have just started, so let's see what's next.